we're speaking with Great White singer Jack Russell today. And Jack, I'd just like to let our audience know a little bit about what my experience has been with you. First of all, like a lot of people, I've been a Great White fan myself for years. I think I first got into you guys when the Once Bitten album was released back in '86 or '87, I believe it was. And I interviewed you for the first time, I don't know if you remember, like last April after you'd appeared on that metal show on VH1. And,
yes, I do remember, actually, yeah.
Okay, and the reason I bring that up is for anybody that knows anything about the Two Great Whites, my experience with you has been nothing positive. I mean, the reason I contacted you after you appeared on VH1 is, in spite of what a lot of your ex-bandmates were saying about you, I found you to be very lucid. You didn't seem to be like you were well-spoken. Didn't seem like a guy that was high on anything or drunk, despite what your ex-bandmates have been saying about you.
Yeah, thank you.
And at the same time, I want to let the audience know, when I interviewed you for the first time, I reached out to Mark Kindle. I put in a request to do an interview with him. I just thought, because I like to try to stay neutral, allow both sides to tell their story. But what I got from Mark Kindle was get in touch with my publicist. And then his publicist, once I shot her an email, wanted to know what our readership was. And when they realized we weren't as big as RollingStone.com, I never heard anything back from him. And that to me right there tells me, okay, you got an agenda. If you're only willing to speak with, big media outlets. And when I talk to you, like, you're very honest and open. And so that right off the bat, that's what I want to let our listeners know. And this time I want to get in touch with you because, like you, I'm from Los Angeles, and you recently appeared on the Heidi and Frank show. And following your appearance, Mark Kindle and his boys felt the need to go on there, and I found it interesting what he had to say about you. For example, he was saying that none of it. He said, first of all, we're Great White. How can you call it Great White featuring Jack Russell? We're the guys that wrote all the songs. We're the guys that have been on all the albums. And that's only partly true, of course, because Mark and Audi and Michael Artie have been in the band, but the bass player Scott Snyder and Terry Lewis, they haven't been in the band all these years, and yet that's kind of what they're trying to make it look like.
Yeah, well, it's their story is their story, and I understand they're just trying to, character assassination or whatever the case may be. I mean, I've proven myself over this last year. We've gone on, a lot of shows, and there's been no cancellations. My voice is in great shape. They're thinking of the Heidi and Frank show. That's just the same garbage they've been spouting the whole time, and it's hurtful, and I went back on there again, and I recapped, and, the thing that really frustrates me and hurts me the most is when they want to start, just making up completely, ridiculous stories, about me calling his wife, for example, and then telling her I was going to take the name of the band. I mean, things like that are just ridiculous, I mean, you've got to be an idiot to believe it's true, so, I don't know, I just kind of had it with the whole thing, I just want to just keep doing my thing, and just keep playing, and doing shows and enjoying myself, I've had a really great time this year. I've got a great band, and we're all really good friends, and it feels good again for the first time in many years.
Yeah, because I mean, even coming from a fan perspective myself, when doing these interviews, you got to kind of have a little bit of integrity and being somewhat honest. And what I mean by that, anybody who knows the history of Great White, for years the history's been pretty much that, you and Mark Kindle formed a band, and you guys were ones that, did most of the interviews and stuff, but he's now going around saying, when I formed Great White, Jack was in jail. I had there's another singer at the time, and it's like he's totally trying to rewrite the history of the band, which I think is going to make for an interesting tale when you guys finally go to court.
Yeah, it's funny because all the stuff he's saying has no value in the court, in the legal sense. It has no value whatsoever. It's just all hubbub. It doesn't really mean anything. The fact of the matter is I've been in the band, longer than anyone. Mark quit the band at one point. He relinquished his rights to the corporation and the name. Even when I was off, I was still the president of the corporation. And on December 10th, as president of the corporation, I decided to fire everybody, and that's what I did. and they decided they didn't want to be fired, so that's what, caused me to have to go out and have a legal action against them. So, it'll all get worked out in the court. I'm not really worried about it. It's just more of a pain in the butt, and it's an expense, that I really don't like to incur, but there's really no choice. I mean, what's right is right. They can say all they want to say. The fact of the matter is there was a time when, they were all out of the band.
Yeah.
Michael and Audie were out of the band for, 2000. Well, Michael was out from 2002 until 2007, and Audie was out when I fired him in 2000 until 2007. There was my drummer Derek played with the band for almost 5 years.
Yes.
And Matthew Johnson played with the band when Mark quit. So I mean, the facts are the facts. It is what it is. You can make up all the fanciful tales you want. You can talk about how Jack's not sober and he can't sing. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, I am sober. I can sing. Or I wouldn't have been able to pull off all the shows I did.
Exactly.
We're getting ready for another great year of shows coming up. So it is. They're going to say what they're going to say, and as hurtful as it is, man, when you have friends that you've known for most of your life. I mean, Mark Kendall and I started this whole thing when I was 17 years old, when I asked him to form a band with me. And that, when I hear him on the radio or I read interviews, the things he says about me, it really hurts. It's painful, but I understand why he's doing it.
Yeah, I can understand that, and talking to you, even the last time I did, I could tell how much that hurts, and it's almost like it's a power play that Michael and Mark are trying to almost take over a band. It's almost like they have the power that they didn't once have.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, I understand where they're coming from. Okay, I was messed up. I had some problems. I get it. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, it still doesn't mean it's not my band.
Yeah.
And the name doesn't mean that the trademark doesn't belong to me. So, I mean, if they didn't like it, they could quit. They decided that they didn't want to quit, so, I'd fire them.
And I know you're saying that you'd fired the drummer, Audie. I was curious, though, how close were you and him at one point? Because the interesting thing is, I noticed the only guys that are really kind of bad-mouthing you are Mark and Michael and even the singer Terry. I haven't heard Audie, doing too many interviews or having too many negative things to say about you.
Well, Audie and I were close. We knew each other prior to me even knowing Mark. I mean, Audie and I were playing together when I was 16 years old. We had a good relationship, for a lot of years. But unfortunately, the sad thing is it's over now. I'm glad he's not out there talking smack about me, but he doesn't need to because everybody else is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't. See, the thing is, I don't wish those guys any harm. I mean, or any. I have no animosity towards them, even with what they're saying to me. I'm not mad at them at all. I'm just hurt. I just can't wait till this is all finished and done with, and we can all get on with our lives as they're going to go.
Like I said,
I just want to be done.
Like I said, it's an integrity thing. A couple of things I found funny when those guys went on the Heidi and Frank show following your first appearance was like Mark Kendall was saying, we're Great White. None of these guys in Jack's band were ever in Great White, which, like you were just pointing out, that's not true. I mean, for example, the live album Good Night and Thank You, the drummer Derek Pontier, he was on that album. So for them to say none of you guys are, they're all hired guns, they've never done anything professional, I just thought that was kind of the biggest laugh. It's like you should do your homework before you open your mouth.
Yeah, well, Mark knows better. He can't sit there and say in 5 years when Derek was playing drums for us, he never turned around and noticed it was him playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Mark's not stupid. Mark's just trying to tell his story, thinking, it's going to sway people's opinion, or somehow that's going to help them in court. The thing is, what's going to happen in court has nothing to do with the things he's saying. I mean, it doesn't matter. Michael and Audie are completely irrelevant as far as that goes in the case, because they're not. They weren't founding members of the band. they were out of the band for a lot of years. So then it comes down to Mark and I. Well, Mark quit the band at one point, and there was even a point where I hired him under Jack Russell Touring, and he was working for me when we were out as Great White. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the legalities are the legalities. They can say what they want to say. It's not going to make a difference when it comes down to court. I'm just waiting for this to be over with so the bad mouthing can hopefully stop.
So let me ask you.
I'm tired of having to talk, stuff about them.
Yeah.
And tell the story. I'm tired of hearing them, lying about me. It's just, I'm so over it.
So let me ask you, Jack. Now, if when you go to court, I understand it's in July. If a decision's handed down in your favor, like they've released one studio album and they're getting ready to release 30th anniversary Great White live album, will they have to take those albums off the market, if you in fact win the case, or will they have to put a different name on it?
That's how it works. I mean, from what I understand, I don't want to get too much into the case. I mean, it's just, but I understand that's how it works, yeah, so, And
I understand that, correct me if I'm wrong, when they recorded that live album is coming out, I think, February 5th, it was somewhere in LA they recorded it, and isn't that the show that you served them the papers with?
Yeah, it was, actually.
Okay. And so, I too think you're very smart that unlike them, you're waiting until the court decision comes down. So, and I've heard that's coming in July. Now, once the decision's made one way or the other, do you think we'll be hearing some new music from you and your band this year?
Absolutely. We're just waiting for that. That's all we're waiting for is we have, a lot of material we've been writing. We've got, some, quite a few demos that are really, really strong. I'm like chomping at the bit. I can't wait to put the stuff out there so people can hear it and go, oh yeah, wow, that's Great White,
Yeah. And,
I've heard a couple of things from their new release, and it, I'm not going to say it's bad, because, if those guys were bad musicians, I wouldn't have played with them for all those years, But the bottom line is, it just doesn't sound like a Great White album. Jerry doesn't sound anything. His style is completely different than mine, and it just doesn't fit that band.
Now,
that's my opinion. And I mean that from, with all due respect to Terry. He's just not. He doesn't come from a bluesy singing style. He's more of a heavy metal, Ronnie James Dio type singer.
Even me, from a fan standpoint, I agree with you. Like, a lot of people, when they think of a band like Great White, they think of a singer, and unless you get a singer that sounds dead on like you, it's just not going to be the same thing. And he could probably, like you said, do a decent enough job singing the songs, but it's just not the same thing. That's why no matter what, I think your band is going to be more successful. And before we go on, I want to let the people know that are listening to this. Also, I have a little bit of knowledge as far as you were saying some stuff when you went on Heidi and Frank about their manager, who I know used to manage Janie Lane. I interviewed about a year ago Paul Shortino. He's another singer that also did some shows with when you were out ill, and I asked him if he ever got the offer to to take your place, and he told me no. He said it was a real political thing, and the interesting thing is he said the manager was all involved in it. He said he managed Janie Lane and he managed this other guy Terry, and he wanted to get one of his guys in the band. That way he get a piece of the band, and he get a piece for whichever one of his guys got in the band.
Yeah, of course, double dipping. That makes sense. That's I guess that's the nature of the business. Unfortunately, whether it's what's the word I'm looking for here? Anyway, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It is what it is. He just want to make as much money as he can, and that's what most managers are all about. I'm really happy in that regard. With my new manager, Valerie Ince. I've known her for a long, long time. She used to work for one of our booking agencies years ago. And she's just a great lady, and she really is a fan of the music, and that's really important to me. I don't want somebody that just looks at me and sees dollar signs. I want them to enjoy the music and be a fan as well. You know, it's important. It's not, you know, I mean, you'll always make money. You know, I mean, but I mean, the important thing is you know, making good music.
See, that's a difference in like dealing with you and the people that you know are involved with you. Like in my dealing with even your manager, when I reached out to her to get the interview both times, she was nothing but friendly. I mean, I talked to her through email, but she told me, "Oh, no problem. Jack would love to do an interview." And even when I talked to you the last time, you were thanking me after we got done. And said, "Hey, dude, anytime you want to do this, you got my number. You can call me anytime. Reach out to me." And I thought, wow, you know, here's this major rock guy, and he's thanking me for doing an interview. And even trying to get an interview with other man, like I said, you know, they want to know what our readership was for our magazine, and when they heard what it was. Didn't even get a, you know, we're unable to do the interview. Thank you for your interest. I thought that would have at least been nice. And even, you know, and like you said, everybody. And then I interviewed a couple of the guys from your band, Robbie and the bass player Dario, and they both gave great interviews, and they're nothing but friendly and easy to talk to. And I kind of think of other Great White. I thought, well, okay, they're not interested in telling their story. They want to only talk to the big media outlets. And again, it seems like they have an agenda where if you're a guy like you, Jack, who you know you seem to be very honest in that you'll talk to anybody. You say this is what, you know, this is my story. I'll answer any questions. And I just everybody I've talked to, like talked to this guy Michael Toney the other day. He put out a book called Tales from a Stage, and he's looking to do another book. And I told him, you know, Jack's a great interview. He's a great guy to talk to, and he says, you know, I've heard nothing but great things about Jack Russell, and he's definitely a guy, you know, I want to talk to.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. You know, and I meant what I said last time we spoke. You know, I really do enjoy talking with you, and I never have ever, you know, looked at something and said, oh, well, you know, I mean, what's your readership? I mean, that doesn't matter to me. You know, I mean, if somebody's interested in talking to me, that is so flattering. That's great. You know, how wonderful, you know. But I wouldn't be surprised after this if they didn't call you up and want to do an interview now.
Yeah, and now, you know, I was thinking too, Jack. You know, right now they're talking their smack, but do you perceive a day that, like, if a decision comes down in your favor, that they might all of a sudden want to fire this Terry Lewis and say, you know, hey Jack, you know, we want to apologize for all the hateful things we said. Let's get back together. Could you perceive the day that might happen on their part?
No, I don't think so. I don't. You know, I mean, it would never happen for one. I would never let that happen. But I really doubt that. You know, I mean, that they would ever do that. You know, there's been too much bad blood. You know, unfortunately, I mean, it's just there's some bells you can't unring, and there's been too many things said. You know, by both sides. I've really tried not to be. You know, to talk bad about people. You know, I talk bad, especially them. I mean, I really have tried not to. I've just tried to be as honest as possible and not let my emotions get involved when it comes down to telling the story about what really happened and what's going on right now with everything.
I think that's
I mean, there's no point in making up lies because then you got to try to remember them all and you get confused and, you know, it never works out. It's just easier to just tell the truth, you know. I
think that's the difference between the two camps. Like, even when you were a couple weeks ago to Heidi and Frank, you're telling them, I got no ill will towards Mark Kendall. I don't have a Mark Kendall voodoo doll. I'm not wishing him harm. Whereas they're not wishing you harm necessarily, but they're talking a lot of smack. And like when Mark was talking to them, he was saying, you know, Jack, you know, we had to wheel Jack out on in a wheelchair. He was wearing a bag. He was falling all over the place on the stage. Well, you know, first of all, if you're really somebody's friend and you know, you're going to all of a sudden turn on your friend because they get ill for whatever reason?
Yeah, well, you know, it's that's what hurts, you know, the most is, I mean, you know, when they came out with their, you know, their big statement and they were listing all my medical history, you know, and it's like, why would you do something like that to anybody, especially somebody that was your friend, you know, your partner for 30 years, you know? I just don't understand it, you know?
And people sometimes seem to forget that, like you were telling me, you could have been a big dick when you got sick and told them, you know what, we're going to pull the band off the road. You guys are just going to have to wait till I get better. But like you were telling me last time, you didn't want them to have to lose their way of making a living. And and then this is kind of thanks you get.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's very true. You know, I mean, it is true. I didn't want them to, you know, have to suffer financially. You know, the bummer was I wish that when I was, you know, first ill, that I would have just said, hey, you know what, I'm taking some time off. I'm shutting the band down right now. You know, instead of going out on the road and continuously beating myself up to do it. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have been out there. You know what I mean? But I was told by my former management, I mean, well, you know, you can't, if you cancel these shows, you know, the promoters aren't going to believe you. They're not going to trust you again. It'll probably ruin your career. But, you know, whatever you want to do, we're behind you 100%. So I'm like, well, okay, well, let's see. Do I want to ruin my career, or do I want to just keep trying to slug it out as best I can? You know, I mean, I wish I would have, you know, done differently. But, you know, hindsight being 2020, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Things happen when they did. I'm happy right now in my life. I'm extremely happy with the band that I have. They're really great guys. I couldn't wish for a better group of people to be playing music with, you know. So, I mean, everything's good in Jack's world right now.
And I want to tell the audience, too, that in spite of what Mr. Kendall had to say on the radio the other day, you know, your guys are professional guys. I mean, they played with, obviously, Great White. They played with Firehouse and Stephen Pearcy and Rob Halford. So, you know, they do have a history of themselves, and they it's not like these guys are just people you found on the internet.
No, they're definitely not people I picked out of the garage, as they said. I mean, you know, these are, I mean, for the most part, like I said, 2 of them are former members of Great White, you know, so what more do you need?
Yeah, and then I want to give you also the opportunity to answer this thing that he was saying when he was on the radio a couple weeks ago here in Los Angeles. He was saying that, you know, about how can you call your band Great White when they're Great White, and he said, as far as Great White featuring Jack Russell, he says there were some recent shows where Jack Russell didn't even show up because he was sick, so how could you say it's featuring Jack Russell? Now, on that note, I just also want to put out there that's somewhat true, but you never let anybody to believe that you were going to be showing up. You put it out there on the internet that Jack's ill, but his band's going to still show up and do a show. So do you want to answer that charge that he was making?
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what happened. I was in Florida. I got ill, and there's no way I could do the shows. I had to go in the hospital to get some antibiotics because then my colitis acted up again. And we let everybody know that I wasn't going to be performing. And you know, the next weekend I came back and we redid the shows the following weekend. And you know, there was never any there was never any deceit involved. You know what I mean? And there never has been. I've always been, you know, very it's always been very important to me to make sure people know that when they're coming to see this band, they're coming to see me sing and not somebody else. Because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's what people want to hear. They want to hear the voice that they recognize when they heard the songs, when they bought the albums and on the radio. I mean, I know, and I've said this before, I'll say it again at the risk of being redundant. I mean, if I hear Aerosmith, I don't want to hear anybody but Steven Tyler. Or that's not Aerosmith to me.
Exactly.
You take Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin, that's not Led Zeppelin anymore.
And now let me ask you, like in regards to in the Florida shows where you weren't able to appear, was part of that mentality, well, okay, I'm not able to appear, but kind of like the show must go on?
Well, the thing was, is we didn't want to disappoint. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The promoters had already advertised for the show, and there were already tickets sold, and so, you know, they said, okay, well, they're more festival gigs, so it wasn't a big deal. You know what I mean? And the people that wanted to come the next weekend instead were able to do so. You know, and the people that just wanted to see the shows. It was mostly more. It was kind of a, if I remember, it was more like I said, a festival thing where, you know, it was like a bike fest or something like that, and those kind of shows usually the band are just kind of like there anyway. You know what I mean? They're not really tons of fans going to see the band. They're just there for the festival. You know, so it wasn't that big of a deal. You know,
okay.
People came that wanted to see us play. They came the next weekend, so it all worked out. You know, no problem. Nobody was upset.
Okay, and the other thing I wanted to ask you about, of course, that you were recently in the news about is you have a show coming up sometime in February in the Los Angeles area where it's going to be a benefit show. And I understand your original plan was to raise money for the station fund, and they kind of put a press statement out there where they wanted nothing to do with you, which I think is very sad on their part because to me, somebody raising money for a good cause, it's wherever it comes from shouldn't really matter. I mean, what's your take on all this?
Well, I understand where it comes from. I mean, they're very close with my other band members, my other former band members. So I know why. I don't understand it, but I know why. I mean, it is sad, and and they're trying to make it like I was doing it for publicity. It's like that's not why I was doing it. We're doing a very low key, acoustic show down here in Hermosa Beach, and at a small little place. It was just more of a gesture, you know what I mean? To say, yeah, it's been almost 10 years, and I wanted to show that, hey, I remember my friends that were lost,
Yeah, and
that was it. And, they didn't want to accept the money. Well, that's unfortunate, and there's nothing I can do about it. But, I still, I pray for the families, and it's not something I ever forget about. I think about it every day.
Of course, I just thought it was a very unfortunate situation, them turning down the money. But on a positive note, since the station fund wouldn't take your donation, you've decided to turn that show into still a benefit show, but where the money raised will go to Ty Longley's son, who of course was your guitar player who died in that fire. You want to talk a little bit about how the decision for that came up?
Yeah, well, we thought that would be the cool thing to do, as opposed to just not giving the money away to anybody. And AC, that was obviously he lost his father in the fire. Our guitarist Ty Longley, and we figured that was just we can get that close, and he can do what he wants with the money. I heard he's going to donate some to different charities, and I believe the station fund's going to be one of them. Hopefully they won't turn him down.
And I was curious, have you been in touch with Ty Longley's wife or anything all these years, or does she know anything about the show?
Heidi, yeah, of course she does. I haven't spoken to Heidi in quite a while, though. She's been busy raising AC, and as far as I know, she hasn't come out to any shows for a while. But there's no ill feelings between us. She's a sweet lady, and I wish her nothing but the best.
And of course, Ty. How long was Ty Longley in the band before the unfortunate incident took his life?
God, I can't. Not that long. I mean, he was in the band for a while when Mark was out, and then he was in my solo band. And then when I invited Mark to come out and join my solo band and do Jack Russell's Great White, unfortunately, that's when a few months later, that's when the fire happened. I'm not really sure how long he played with us. It was not that long of a time.
That's what I thought, and the only reason I was bringing it up, I was just curious, since you have this benefit show coming up, like he wasn't with Great White, like you're saying, for too long, but so a lot of people didn't get a chance to know him, but is there something a memory you have of him, or something special you remember about him that you'd like to share with us?
Oh yeah, he was just a lovely human being. He's just a sweet guy. He had this really curly, frizzy hair like a troll doll, and he used to put it up on top of his head straight up. And it was just so comical. I'll never forget that. He was just a really great kid. Great guitar player, just a sweet, genuine human being, and he's very much missed. I saw his father not too long ago, and we had a mom, and Pat's a very, very nice guy, and of course I see him and I see his son, in his face. It's really, it's really hard.
Wow. So now, Jack, of course, you're waiting for the lawsuit, I guess, to come down in July. But once that happens, do you got any big plans to celebrate the 30th anniversary of your Great White yourself?
Well, you know what? I think saying a 30th anniversary is kind of, kind of silly. There's really not any 30th anniversary. It's my 30th anniversary. Yeah, okay, as a singer for Great White, but going back to their 30th anniversary title record, I think it's kind of silly that they call it that, because it's not really Great White. I wish they would have maybe thought a little more about it and called it something else.
Yeah, it seems like they're almost rushing to to get product out there, just to prove, hey, we're Great White. We got.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's just trying to say, okay, well, well, look at this. Now we got, Great White lunch boxes, and what's next? Barbie dolls, all that. No, it's just, I guess they're just trying to prove a point, but it's, like I said, the outcome's going to be the outcome, and that's going to have no effect on it. So.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I follow up what everybody's saying, and on the internet, and following the first interview I did with you, I don't know if you remember, but I had forwarded an article or an interview that Terry Lewis gave. I can't remember what the website was, but he was basically telling the story about, how can Jack leave Great White and expect he's going to take the name of the band? This is Mark Kindle's band, and when David Coverdale left Deep Purple, he didn't take the name, Deep Purple with him. But a couple things, Terry, you're not David Coverdale. By the time David Coverdale left Deep Purple, he had a much bigger fan base than you even have, and and I just thought, this guy, of course, he has to say what Mark Kindle's saying, but how can he be saying this stuff when he's hearing it secondhand? He wasn't even there when the band was formed, and
I guess he's entitled to his own opinion, regardless of how uninformed he might be,
Yeah. And so, pretty much, you have a show coming up in a couple of weeks at Hermosa Beach, and then you got any plans to get on any big tours, or are you going to pretty much wait till you get some product out there?
No, we've got a lot of shows booked so far. We're going to just continue to tour through the year. Right now we've got just a couple shows this month, and we start hitting it hard in March.
Okay, and so
we'll be doing a lot of shows this year,
So if things calm down in July like they should, and you end up with the name, you're gonna drop the Jack Russell, and you're just gonna call it Great White. That's the plan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And see, I think that's the difference between the two camps. Again, you're kind of saying, well, I'm confident, but I don't have a name yet, so I don't want to get anything. I don't put any product out there, and we're just gonna wait. And they're trying to, like I said, just like flood the market with stuff from them to kind of prove it. Hey, we're Great White,
Right. Well, everybody's got their own, like you said, agenda, I suppose. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It's in God's hands,
So Jack, let me ask you, for the benefit show, are you guys gonna be videotaping that for maybe a DVD or something down the line?
You know what? No, we've already done that. We've done a DVD of the whiskey show we did in Hollywood, which we're going to be releasing in not too long for a free DVD. It's not, we're not going to put it out for sale. We're just going to give it to the fans for download.
Oh, cool. And do you have any idea when do you have a release date, or you're working on that?
No, we're working on it right now, actually. It's just in the editing process.
And so,
it shouldn't be too long.
Okay, well that's really great, and I'm really excited to hear the new stuff from you guys. So I guess it'll sound more like a Great White than anything, but more up to date, right?
Absolutely.
And so when was it actually? Do you remember when was actually the last Great White album that you appeared on?
That would have been 2010. I believe that was Rising.
Okay. And I guess that's pretty much it, Jack. I know you're very busy, so you've been going. I know you live on your boat. You get a chance to go out much on the boat, or?
Oh, absolutely. I try to take it out at least once a week.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Jack, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to try to come out to your show in Hermosa Beach, because I don't live too far from there.
That'd be great. Make sure if you do, make sure you come and say hello.
I will do, sir. So I can almost guarantee that that we'll be doing this again, because again, you've been a blast to talk to, and you're always nothing but down to earth. And I think I'll be sending your manager Valerie the name of that writer, because he said he'd be very interested in interviewing you for another book he's going to be putting out.
Well, that would be great. I really appreciate your help.
Okay, thanks again, Jack, and I'll let you know.
My pleasure.
I'll let you know as soon as this is going to air, and I'll be in touch. So thanks again. I really do appreciate it.
Sounds good. Anytime, my friend. Anytime. All right. You have a great one. All right. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks again. Bye-bye. You too, buddy.